I'd like to introduce this interview with Alberto in Venezuela. I've blocked out his face on there because he just is in a very oppressive government, and I just don't want to have a problem for him. So, so his identity's been hidden, and just commenting on this series of what we're doing. I'd like to just have everybody understand we're here to see solutions, not to see problems. We can all look at the things that are going on and focus on the bad, but ultimately that doesn't get us where we need to go. We all know things are going bad. We all know inflation's hitting. How far that goes, we don't know. What the effects of that'll be, nobody can really say all of that. I think Alberto mentions real estate in there. In the past, he's told me that real estate is not a good investment because $1 million homes sold for $50,000. But again, there's another, in the video, you'll notice at the end he says real estate is probably a good thing. But I think what we're trying to say in that is nobody knows how long this cycle is going to be, and if it's 1 or 2 years, then real estate can be a great investment. If it's 20 years or more, which is what it's been in Venezuela, real estate was not a good investment. So I think it's, the purpose of this video is not to give you the final answer of what to do with everything. There are answers, there are things that we can all do, but each one of us is very individual in how we approach life. So I hope that this encourages you. This community is going to have a lot more videos and resources. One of them I have in the back here, actually. It's my book that I wrote 10 years ago, Vegetable Garden, Faith and a Corvette. It's dated, but it's a book that talks about my journey out of religion and into a creative economy of the Spirit of God that has provided and helped in significant ways. It talks in there about 10 years ago, the projecting what would be happening, what we're walking into currently. So it could be a good read, just if nothing else, to just stir up some different lines of thought, something that maybe we're not aware of is possible. If you can't get access to that book, I'm more than happy to email you a free email version of it. If you want to buy it, you can get it off Amazon or Lulu or wherever, and they'll deal with it. But I hope you enjoy this video with Alberto. It is long, or this podcast. It's nearly an hour long, but there's a lot in there to just try to give an understanding, a picture of what things could be. And I know he's in a very communist country, but I think there's a lot of similarities to some of the things we're starting to see unfold in our Western societies. So I'll leave it for you to digest, and in that, I hope you enjoy hearing from Alberto.
Living in Caracas, I born in Caracas, Venezuela. Now in Caracas, of course, in a factory, I have a responsibility for the manager a small factory lighting. This is my job here. It's a little bit, but the economy in Venezuela is really down. The business is going a little bit heavy. It's difficult. The sales are decreased a lot. We have a lot of problems, like economical problems, political problems, importation. We need some goods for outside, for any other countries, but it's difficult to buy. And we are working here, doing day by day. Yeah.
How long ago did high inflation hit you? Like how old were you? You were there when life was normal, and then it started to go bad. So I mean, it's been what, 20 years or something, right?
Yes, more or less. At the beginning of this century, it's about 1999, 2000, the year the inflation started there. Can you imagine in the last 20, in those 20 years, the currency is decreased or devaluating or inflation? It has 3, 6, 9, 15, 6. They take off the government about 18 digits. Means the inflation year by year is about 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, and the currency decreased the value. And when you, in the past, when you need to pay something, for instance, $1 is 1 million bolivares. 1 month later is the same price, $1, but at that moment the currency is 5 million. It's increased because the currencies lost the power. And the government makes some change in order to don't talk about millions and millions. They take off 6 zeros. At that moment, in the year 2009, the government create a new name for the currency. At that moment, $1 again, 1 bolivar. At that moment was say Bolivar Soberano. They add some words. But day by day, the inflation was up. In the year 2015 or 2016, $1 again was 1 million bolivares soberano. And they destroy again 6 0. He created a new name, the strong Bolivar. Bolivar is strong. At that moment, 2015. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. What? From 20 years ago, before your hyperinflation, how much, like what percentage do you think roughly has your currency devalued? Like you told me it was more than 1 million percent.
The inflation before 1999 was unstable, but normally 70% per year or something. 60, 50, 60, 50, 99, 40. I can send you some data, if it's possible, I can send you some movement of the inflation during 1990 years. But after 2000, 2001 to 2005, the inflation was 3,000 per year, 10,000 per year. It's really dramatic year by year. And again, in the year, I told you, 2015, they create a new currency named called Bolivares Strong, in English, strong. $1, 1 Bolivares strong. But last year, $1 was 1 million again Bolivares strong. Can you imagine? 2007, they destroyed 6 digits. On the 2015, they moved 6 zeros. And last year, they removed 5 zeros. And now $1 is about 5 bolivares. Now the name is bolivares digital bolivares. But it means our inflation moved 6 plus 6 plus 5 digits. They remove.
So would be how many percent you think? 1 million, 2 million percent? I mean, what?
Yes, 2 million percent. Yeah, yes.
2 million percent your currency has devalued. Wow. So help us understand.
No. We are talking 1,000 billion percent. 1,000 million, no, 1,000 billion percent in those 20 years. 1 billion, no, 1,000 billion, 1 trillion is in English, the word, trillion. No, it's not, doesn't exist, that word. No?
1 trillion percent.
1 trillion percent, yes. 1 and 12 zeros.
So help our listeners understand, if you could, Alberto, that so before, let's use the year 2000 as the benchmark. So before hyperinflation in the year 2000, you had $100,000 in the bank.
Yeah.
When inflation hit and you had 100% inflation, your $100,000 equivalent of dollars in Venezuelan currency, bolivares, became worth nothing.
Yeah.
So I guess my point would be, it's hard for people to understand. They have a lot of money in the bank. They see the numbers and think, wow, I have $1 million. I have $10,000. But as inflation comes, you've told me before, it steals from you while we sleep, correct?
Yeah. Well, before 2000 year was not allowed to have bank account in dollars, only in bolívares. But the people bought dollars in the black market and open a bank account in any other countries, like Panama, Mexico, República Dominicana, could be states. And the people, due to the inflation, the bolívares, they move to dollars. They want to change and open a bank account outside the Venezuela. It's exactly that happened now. We have many people, rich people, they work for the government. They have many bank accounts in France, Spain, Luxembourg, whatever, no? Korea, Iran. Yeah. But if you had bolívares, move as soon as possible to dollars and open a bank account.
So if you have a currency, now I'm in Australia right now, but this is going to go to America and all over the world. But let's use Australia as an example. If you have a lot of Australian currency in your bank and inflation is starting, now it's a good idea to get it out of the currency, the local currency, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about, you were telling me that when inflation first began, the government would say it was at 3% when it's at 100%. You know, like here, they're saying, oh, there's not much inflation, but the building industry's gone up something like 25% in its,
yeah.
They say, oh, it's an increase in, but it's a lack, what do you call it? Supply chain issues. And they come up with all sorts of reasons, but ultimately it's inflation.
Yeah.
Is that what the government did there? Did they lie to you about the rate of inflation when this first began, or were they honest?
Well, a little bit, I didn't understand your question, but let me to tell you that those years is really difficult to live here. Each 2 months, we need to increase the salary for the people because the inflation is too much. And the price of the goods always go up and the salary need to move again. Each 2 months, it's necessary to update the salary of the people. And this is a difficult situation to live here. Most of the people, of course, are moving the expenses only for food. Well, it's difficult, but a little bit moving also for health. But it's difficult to repair the cars. It's difficult to make a maintenance for the office. It's difficult to do the maintenance for a home. It's difficult. The money, the currency, the money is only moving to food and health.
Yeah,
That's the most important.
Now, Alberto, Venezuela is was a very rich country. You have oil, you have diamonds, you have gold. So before inflation and during then inflation came, your natural resources, they did not really help the country. They just helped the elite. Is that what's happened?
Yeah. Let me to explain a little bit. In fact, Venezuela is a rich country. Really, oil, gas,
yes,
many minerals, a lot of also food. We have a lot of a piece of land to produce meat, many agriculture, a lot. At the beginning of the year 2000, we produced more than 3 million barrels per day. I'm talking about oil, more than 3 million. In the year 2004, about more or less 2004, 2006, the oil barrel, it costs about $130 per barrel. In those periods, 2001, 2006, or 2007, the income of Venezuela was much more than it's about $1 trillion. It's about $750 billion. This amount of money is incredible. 750 million or $750 billion due to the gas and due to the oil.
Yeah.
There was an income to the country. It's a lot of money.
Coming into the country, yes.
Into the country. After 2 years, 2009, 2010, was the first big devaluation of the money. What happened? The country received a lot of money, but that money is not for the population, it's not for social insurance, it's not for half the people, it's only for the pocket or the pocket for about 10,000 people, no more. It's incredible. You can look here in the street, Ferraris, Mercedes. I talk about cars,
Yes.
big ship, for the water, ships, planes, private planes. Is every people in the world knows that many people moving around the government has $1 billion in many bank accounts outside Venezuela, and all the money who entry to the country is moving directly to those people. It's a big team, big group. There are ministers, the Congress, the military, etc., and they took off all the money. Can I tell you that, for instance, the oil company? You know, the oil company require maintenance, important maintenance for pipe, valves, etc. Well, they didn't any maintenance. And in the year 2016, we reduced our production, normal production, 3.5 million barrels per day to 500,000 barrels per day. We decrease a lot because it's not working. The petrochemicals, the oil company doesn't work anymore correctly because they didn't any maintenance. Only take off the money, but they don't make any maintenance. Now our production is about 600,000 barrels per day. It's really a low amount of production. In fact, most of this production is only for internal consumption. Now we cannot export petroleum, oil, because we don't have it. It's the same to the gas. They didn't any maintenance, nothing. They destroy the company, only produce and take the money. Don't invest nothing inside the country. And now we don't have gas. We don't have only for consumption, internal consumption. Let me to tell you now, we can't produce our gasoline, our benzene. We bought benzene from Arabia, from Iran, because the petrochemical or the producer of the benzene for the cars is not working anymore. And now they are trying to repair. We have some engineers from Russia, from Iran, from Korea, in order to help, because also the people, they have some knowledge, they move the country. Now it's in another countries. Now we don't have a really good technician like was in the past. The good technicians move for the company to outside. And now we don't have production for our own consumption of benzene. We don't have it. We are each month we receive 3 or 4 big ships from Iran, from Emirates, etc., because they are helping us to provide benzene for the cars. And this is the reason we have, for sure, maybe 5,000, 6,000 people, very, very rich, with $10,000 billion in the bank account, more than $10,000 billion. There are 5, 6, 7,000 people, very, very rich, but the rest of the country is really poor. And the country is rich, of course, but we don't have money.
Yeah. So let's switch gears too. I understand. Yeah, that's not a good picture. But when inflation came, people like here in Australia, the government, I think as inflation begins, I think the government's answer to inflation is socialism. They start to put more workers into government work because they try to make the employment figures look better. So now, you know, we had 1 million government workers, they're going to have 2 million government workers. So people think that if I get a job in the government, it'll be safe from inflation.
Yeah.
What is your observations there? Because I know you mentioned to me that the government there had, I think, as you said, 1 million government workers. Now they have 6 million, and to be in government work is not a good place to be when inflation starts. Is that correct? What would you have to say about working in the government as inflation starts to increase?
Most of the problem of this, in my opinion, is due to the political ideas. This political system is moved in order to control, totally control of the population. They don't want the private company. That reason, they expropriate a lot of private company, wood, iron, business, whatever. They take off control. They take control about the bank. Most of the bank are take for the government. They increase the population workers. They increase the 1 million employees in the year 2000. Now they have 5 million employees on the government. And the government take control of this population. I give you a small bag with food. Next week, I give you a bonus. But if you have a wrong position with me, I don't give you the money, I don't give you the bonus, I don't give you the food. The government try to control all the people. And the most important is to receive all the people like an employee for the public offices. This is my control.
Was it like that before the year 2000, or only after the inflation started to get very high?
No, just the government take the control in the year 2000, because this government was elected on 2000. They start at the following day, the next day, they took control to the government. They destroyed the economy, and they started, for instance, the oil company. And it's not my history; it's written in any papers. The total population, the total employees working for petroleum company was a little bit 25,000 people in the year 1999. In the year 2000, they moved from 25,000 people to 135,000 people. But of course, you don't need those amount of people, because 1 year early, we produced more than 3 million oil with only 25,000 people. But 1 year later, they increased the total amount of employee from 25,000 to 135,000, 110,000 people more, but only friends, people in order to make control, whatever, is the friends. It's exactly the same to many other companies. The idea is the government to employ many people, and many people depend of the government, and the government take control for you, for your food, for your family, for your story.
So because before the year 2000, private industry was stronger, after the change in government and the inflation started to come, they make everybody government employee. And because really with inflation, like what we are seeing here in Australia, I believe, with the economy that's closed because of COVID, the government is employing everybody for things and buying a lot of things, printing a lot of money. And so the government, they are saying employment is low, unemployment is low. But really unemployment is not low in the private sectors, because the government is starting to employ everybody.
Yes. Yes. Also, I talk about the oil company, but also the iron company. We have steel, iron, aluminium, etc. We had a very big production before 2000 year. After that, they destroyed the factory. Now we not produce iron, steel, aluminium. We take off a little bit those minerals from the forest and export all this in raw material, but we cannot produce any more iron, etc. And we have a close relation with Iran, any other countries like Iran, Russia, etc. And now they are in charge to take off the minerals, very important for nuclear fusion, whatever. There are many pieces of lands only by a strict control of Russia, Iran, etc. They take off the mineral, the most important minerals that they needed, cobalt, well, many.
The other countries are taking that from you. I remember you saying government work today in Venezuela. People don't want to work for the government because there's no money. They want to get into private industry, but the private people don't want them because they don't work. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct, but please, it's very important to pay attention for the one example. Maybe I'm wrong, I make a mistake, but I think that this is true. We need to look or to watch what happened with Russia in the year 1990 when destroyed the Russia, the socialist community. Many people was very rich, but they cannot move his money to outside Russia. And they create a strong private company inside for the money from corruption, but the money was inside Russia. Now it's the same. States and Europe, the United States and Europe, make some penalties to the bank account of the many Venezuelan people outside Venezuela. What happened? These people, politicals, etc., they took the money outside Venezuela and moved the money to Venezuela. And now they bought or they create a new private company, but it's the same people friend to the government. But now they have some supermarkets, they have some pharmacies, they create hospitals, they create todo because they have his money. They moved from outside to Venezuela to inside because outside they cannot spend the money. The States and Europe are looking for the money of those guys. And now the economy is growing out a little bit in Venezuela, but it's due for this. Many people are moving his own money from corruption and create some private companies in Venezuela. But there are close friends for the government. It's the same thing. But now they don't have the money outside Venezuela. They have the money inside the Venezuela.
So let's talk about the common people now, the poorer people. So the everyday worker who's not connected, not the elite, but the normal people, to work in the government, it's not a good thing, correct? Because of inflation, you don't get the pay increase. And so you told me what, they get equivalent of $6 a day or $6 a month.
$6 a month.
And they can't feed their family for one day with that.
Of course, but the government is giving in 1 week 1 bag for the food.
Yeah.
Next week 1 bag for something. Next week 1 bonus for the Revolutionary Day. Okay, another $6. Next week $3 for bonus, or I don't know. Each month they create a new names.
Okay.
The people are a little bit happy. The people, the common people, are a little bit happy because they receive maybe $20, $19, $21 a month, plus 2 bags, food bags, whatever.
But the better place to be. So I'm now just to help our listeners understand for everyday common person like me. We would be. When inflation is starting to come, it's not a safe place to work. Is not the government. It's better to be in private industry, but you told me it's in essential work, not things that are essential for people. Is that the better place to be? You will earn more money in essential work instead of in the government. Yes.
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
But yes. But the employee people on the private place is really low compared with the public people, because it's difficult to start a private job now. It's difficult. We need to invest money, but the government in any moment it's possible to take the control of your company. It's difficult to invest money. Only for the friends of the of the
Tell me
government.
about real estate. So in 2000, before the hyperinflation started to come, because in Australia, people think real estate is a good investment. So they say, now they are saying here, inflation is so bad. They are saying everybody in the city that I'm in, everybody's house is worth $1 million. And we're all millionaires. I said, but if everybody's a millionaire, nobody's a millionaire. So I'm trying to say to them, it's numbers. But if your house is valued at $1 million, you were telling me that the houses that were $1 million, as inflation came, foreigners came and bought those houses for $50,000.
Yeah.
So so real estate is not a good investment during inflation. Is this correct?
Yeah, it's correct. Let me to tell you about some details. We have maybe 6 million or more than Venezuelan people outside the country. Mostly are young people and professional guys, doctors, engineers, administrators, whatever. It's difficult to find any family without any parents outside Venezuela. Now, I think it's impossible. Now, I think each family, for sure, they have at least one member of family outside Venezuela. Like they moving for many countries, Mexico, States, Europe, Colombia, Argentina, Chile, whatever, any countries.
Yeah.
It's estimated that Venezuela received $100 per month, is it average, but this is no information directly from the government. This information coming from any other private agencies. One Venezuelan one Venezuelan people outside Venezuela sent it about $100 per month. More or less, we have 3 million Venezuelan people working outside. There are 6 million, but you know, there are some boys, no work, maybe some people older, etc. But the average is 3 million people that are producing money. $100 for each one. That means that we receive at month $300 million per month. This is the money income to the country. But nobody work inside Venezuela. It's money coming outside the Venezuela to inside Venezuela. And the family receive, each family, $100 per month extra of the salary. Because the parents outside the country, they are sent that money. It's very important to take off about this number. For me, it's much more. But more or less, the average, they say $300 million per month, only for help the parents.
And that the money, the houses in the real estate in Venezuela, the housing, the people that were out, those 3 million people outside of Venezuela, they bought the real estate cheap in Venezuela, yeah?
Yeah.
Because the money, the people inside Venezuela, the money goes down, the value of the real estate goes down.
Yeah.
And so the people outside the country with foreign currency come in and they buy the real estate very, very cheap.
Very cheap. Yeah, of course. In fact, in Venezuela, I think more than 90% of the population, they don't talk anymore about the local currency, call it bolívares. They always, now the market is use the dollar. Now, again, numbers coming from private agency, more than 65 and 17% of the currency moving inside Venezuela is dollars, no Bolivar anymore. You can go to any market, popular market or supermarket or private supermarket, they're asking for dollars. What is the price? $2, $3, because the black market is also moving too much here. About the price, about the price, the people need money. If you have a car, maybe the price of the car was $10,000, but if you want to buy, maybe you receive an offer for maybe 1,500 $1,500 or something, but the price is lower. It's the same for the houses, because many people live outside also the country, the offer of the houses and cars is too much because they are empty. Many houses are empty. The family is outside of Venezuela, and you have a lot of offer about the houses also. If you want to buy one house, maybe you have 15 options or 20 options to find a house, and the price is lower.
Yes, because nobody has the money. Now, in those homes, the families you were saying, many people, they lose their house in high inflation because they can't make the repayments. And you were saying it's common to have 20 or 30 family members living in one home.
Yes, 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 because they don't have money to buy any new house, and they also live together in order to help one to another. And you say many parents live in the same house.
What are the businesses? What sort of businesses do you think, like now, before high inflation comes to our economy, what sort of businesses is better to prepare now? Essential businesses, like what? You were saying repairing appliances because people don't buy new appliances.
Yeah.
Cheap cars, fixing cheap cars. I think you told me teaching, how to teach people how to fix things. Are these what sort of other businesses do you think are good? I mean, nothing's inflation proof, but what businesses do better in inflation?
Well, it's difficult to answer this one. About cars, it's difficult because the car importation is totally controlled for the government. It's necessary to arrange some permissions, some payments. It's difficult to move in the car market. But of course, one option is the cheaper cars. I think the most important business now is all related to food, meat, rice, potato, chickens, farms, chicken, coffee, whatever. I think this is the first option, food, because when the inflation is high, the people only look for the food. Is the most important. The second part, I think, of course, I'm positive. No, I'm always move in the positive way. Now there are some situations specific in the country. The government are talking with the states and German in order to reduce a little bit the penalties, international penalties for the private politicals. They are moving some political meetings, etc., in order to reduce the penalties. And the government locally are a little bit more flexible and are open some investors. Some investment for some private investments. I think it could be possible also to invest in health because our level of health, hospital, etc., is very low, but this is a very expensive investment. Yeah. Of course, food and small manufacturers. We need, I think, move a little bit the plastic companies to produce our local piece of irons, etc. The small factory, I think, could be a good option to invest in those things. Shoes, clothes. I think this is the most important part of the economy that is good to invest now.
Yes, and you were saying though with clothes, a lot of people they hand them to their friends and their family. So clothes, they wear them until they are worn out, you know?
Yeah. I think so. In fact, now when the inflation is high, every country in the world is the same. The black market is growing. Always asking for the black market, no pay tax. Always is, I have a friend, I know one guy, I can give you a help, but always is like in black market level. Many people bought clothes, etc. in Colombia. It's a neighbor country. And this is the clothes that we have now in the clothes that we have now in Venezuela because our local production is very low. For that reason, I told you that could be very interesting to invest in clothes and shoes, etc., because our market, local market, is very low. And I think the government now is flexible to help those investments, those areas.
Now, it's not a good idea to try to store food. They call in America, they call this prepper. Because if you try to store your food, high inflation doesn't go away in 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
So like in the case of Venezuela, it's been 20 years.
20
You
years.
can't store 20 years worth of food. So you're better to find ways to, I think bartering, you were saying, is good too, right? People start to barter, they swap things. And
yeah. Till last, I think September, Venezuela was in the level of hyperinflation, was a really high level of inflation because the number was very high. But now we have 6 months continuously over 100% per month.
wow.
I think due to the economy's rules, etc., if you have more than 6 months lower than 100%, now you are moving from hyperinflations. They have another number. Now is inflation, I don't know, level A, level double A, I don't know exactly. But now officially we are not in hyperinflation because hyperinflation is more than 100% per month. Now we have 75, 65, now 6 months continuously, lower than 100%.
Talk about the suicide and things like that there. So a lot of people have lost things, families have had a lot of pressure, and you were telling me there's a lot of suicide and things.
Yes.
So it's important in this time to prepare yourself mentally and understand that there's going to be changes to your way of life.
Yeah, here is happening exactly the same. Many other countries in the world, many people have a lot of problems, and the solution is to suicide. But the government control all the communication, news, TV, radio, all the news are controlled for the government. I have personally some friends working on the metro, the subway, subway, and they say day by day at least 3, 4, 5 people suicide in the subway. They jump to the rails, but nobody knows this. No, the government don't inform this situation, and sometimes one mother with 2 children, whatever, they jump to the subway rails. Day by day, it's not only one person each month. We are talking about 6, 7. I don't know exactly the amount, but some people day by day. The suicide is increased a lot.
And I'd like to say to that, just for the people listening, I think that's why we are doing these podcasts, these things, because I'm trying to show people there is hope. You don't have to lose your hope in this time of high inflation. I mean, you are a good example, Alberto. For 20 years, you've lived through the high inflation. You've had to adapt, but you're still there. You're still alive. You're still healthy. Yes?
Well, it's difficult to say that we are, of course, we are alive. I'm here. Many people here and breathe every day. But the health is really not good. Potentially, look this. The people from 40 years old or more, the food is really not, the level of proteins, the quality of food is not good. They eat day by day only, I forgot the name in English, many past Italian food.
Pasta,
etc. Day by day, but they don't eat some proteins. they don't drink some good juice, etc. The level, the quality of the food is really low. We have many people with high tension, problem with the cardio, problem with the liver, many problems, but nobody knows. But they do to live day by day. They need to move day by day, but the quality of the health is really not good. This is a big problem with the food, with the food, yes. Many problems with psychological people, many problems, a lot of diagnosis, many people with a lot of problems. And look this, please, look this, the child. This is another question. Many childs from 1 to 10 or 12 years old, they didn't receive the vaccines. Remember, there are a protocol for the vaccines for the child. Many child, they didn't receive the vaccines. They drink milk. They drink the good vitamins, etc. for his age, for the age of those childs. And we have potentially one big problem for the next 10 years, because when those child guys arrive to 20 years old, 25, 30, they have many problems with the body, for mobility, many problems with the mind, the brain development, but they will have some difficulties a lot, because the food is really, the level is no good.
And we're gonna put some resources on this too, about how to help in those areas, mental health and things. But I'll keep moving, because I know I'm gonna have to let you go here shortly. But one thing I just backtracking, you'd said is it's not good to sign a contract. If you are, say, a builder, you don't want to sign a contract direct with the government. You want to sign it with somebody else who signed it with the government. Is that because the government does not, in high inflation, they don't give you increases and they break contracts? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And then what, I'm just looking on, I made a few little, I think we've covered most of that, but we're saying, what final, just in conclusion, as in Australia, I mean, many people, they just want to pretend this is not going to happen, because it's very frightening to think about it. So they are like, just pretend it's not there. But there's other people that are saying, well, I need to start to think about inflation and how that's going to affect my family and my life. What suggestions or preparation, do you have any things you suggest now before it becomes a big problem that people could do? What would you do if you were here now and you knew inflation was going to be going higher and higher and higher and higher? What, if you were living in Australia, Alberto, what sort of things would you do to prepare? Is there things you can do to prepare?
Yeah.
I guess one thing would be to get your currency out of the local currency.
I'm always thinking in a positive way. Now the inflation, I think it has some movement going down. It's very important. I think also that the government has some problems and are receiving now the big pressure of the population. It's very important. And I think in the next month or something, we can reactivate a little bit the economy. I think this is the movement. This is the way. I think in 1 year, our economy will be growing a little bit more day by day. I think this is the movement. There are many jobs to do in Venezuela. Many jobs. Services, railways, highways, hospitals, schools. There are many jobs to do here in Venezuela. I think I'm positive. I think in 1 year they need to move. If not, our country will go into zero. But I think now it's a little bit reactivated the economy. We have many topics to work in Venezuela. Of course, we will need some money from extra help. Venezuela now doesn't have much money to pay all recovery procedure. We need to improve the electricity supply. We have many problems with supply. With the internet, you have internet now in your country. Maybe you have 105 Mbps. Now we have in Venezuela 2, 3. Now we have this conversation, but this is not normal. In fact, when I'm talking with you, sometimes is showing the screen, the internet is unstable. We don't have internet, good quality. This is very important to investment in technology, whatever, internet, communication, many things. There are many topics.
So you would prepare, I mean, obviously it's hard to prepare, but if you were in Australia now, Alberto, and you knew that you're watching inflation start to go more and more and more up, what would you do with your family to prepare them if you were here in Australia?
It depends of each country. It depends. We have a very Latin mind, and the Venezuelan and also any countries, neighbors of Venezuela, we are very hot people. We improve day by day, and many things. It's difficult, I think, that in Australian area. For instance, in Venezuela, the mechanicals, to do the maintenance, the car, they go to the street, take off 10 meters of a street and repair the cars outside. Yeah. There are happy. So we are happy people. We can answer or try to solve many things. And if you ask with somebody, is electricist, is mechanical, they have every people say no. I know a lot of job. They try to do day by day any job. We don't have any specialists. We have people that move all things at the same time. It's difficult to think in mind of Australian people, but of course, when the inflation is too much, it's normally you need to save your money value. The most important is to buy foreigner currency. You need to watch which currency is hard and move your currency to another one. The another point is, if you want to make some investment, for sure will be investment in the very short place. You cannot invest in heavy industries because the income takes long time, 2 years, 3 years, the income. When inflation is high, it's very important to do investment for a short time to receive the income as short as possible. But if you have a lot of money, could be interesting to pay attention for good investment for a long term. But it's very important if you have much money, you can invest to buy some industry, whatever, because in 2 or 3 years times, maybe the inflation no go anymore up, but go down, and you have the property. Another thing is very important, to train the people, to receive education, is very important because when the people are unemployment, it's very important to have training in any responsible, because in any moment the situation will change, and when change, now you are prepared to start the new job. It's very important, the education. Of course, you need to make a paper and write all your priorities. You don't need to move the car, you don't need to move the house, you don't need some extra things. You need to pay attention exactly what is the most important, the priority cost. And the rest of the money is very important to move to any other currency.
Yes.
You need to establish your priorities.
Priority.
You go to the restaurants 5 or 6 or 10 times a month, now only one. It's very important to pay attention for the most important priorities.
Absolutely, I understand. Prioritize your needs.
Your needs, exactly.
Alberto, I'm going to let you go, and I'm hoping we can get you again. I'll put this out for people to listen to, and then they can maybe send some questions, and I could email it to you or something. And if you're happy to be on again, that would be wonderful. But, yeah, thank you very much.
No, don't